Sounds okay? Okay. Hi, I am Christopher Monroe. I'm a documentary filmmaker. What I'm really after is the truth. Today, the truth has brought me to Canada, specifically Vancouver, Canada. This is the home of Blue Castle Games, the makers of Dead Rising 2. This video game is unique because it's filled with disgusting characters and also zombies. We're going to explore what it takes to make a game of this level of disgust. And what is the connection between Zombrex and Blue Castle Games?
Welcome to Blue Castle Games, the home of Dead Rising 2, and my name is Josh Bridge. I'm a senior producer on Dead Rising, and if you want to follow me in, I'm going to show you where we've been working on this game. Come on. You can see we like to keep a lot of the information up on the wall. We do a lot of check boxes, make sure we have everything in the game. You can see there's a lot of stuff in it. A lot of hard work going into making sure we get all those little bits that make Dead Rising a lot of fun. Let's head over here. I'm going to meet a few of our folks that make some of the zombies and those weapons and those online experiences. Come on. And these folks here are just, they're starting to pull together that online experience that's going to make the game really awesome. Come on, I'll show you more. We have a lot of the folks that help bring together the timeline experience for Dead Rising 2. The missions. We love zombies, and we want to make sure there's actually a challenge to trying to beat that clock when you go around killing them. Come on, got some more to show you. Hey Chuck, do you know where Alistair is?
Hey Alistair.
Got some folks to meet you.
Okay for audio? Testing. Is that working? All right, we good? Tell me about Zombrex. You guys have a slogan.
Yes, of course. The slogan for Zombrex is prevention is always better than the cure.
I wonder, can I get it in any other form? A pill, maybe?
No, it only comes in inoculation in the vial, so.
Okay, and I don't have to refrigerate it? Or...
No, you just keep it in room temperature and it should be good.
And how often do I have to take Zombrex?
Well, you have to take it every 24 hours.
See, you've had 273 days without incident. Say I'm worried I might be infected. How do I know? What are the symptoms?
Well, first you want to look out for, a rank odor, strange behavior like unfamiliar cravings, the smell of rotting limbs, and... Oh, sorry. Can we... Oh. Sorry. I just, my head.
You can pick it up. Why don't you were telling me about the symptoms.
Herd-like mentality, increased shambling, random limb loss, unfamiliar cravings, so if people are, craving flesh or brains.
When was the last time you took your Zombrex?
Let me tell you. It's been 27 hours now. Take a look.
It's a conspiracy. You don't need Zombrex.
They're just feeding us this.
We
don't need it, I'm fine.
It's been 27 hours.
We should take a little break, and we can start this when you're feeling a little better.
I'm fine. I'm fine, I can do this.
Okay, guys, let's pack this up. Let's go. Let's get out of here. This is not good. We will do this another time. Okay, we're done.
Dead Rising 2 occurs 5 years after Dead Rising 1. It is a continuation of the universe of Dead Rising. The outbreak that occurred at Willamette Mall in Dead Rising 1, that story is continued. The zombie virus is still in America. The problem of zombies is still in America. And Fortune City represents the largest outbreak since the events of the past.
My name's Chuck.
Our main hero is Chuck Green. He's an ex-motocross champ. He lost his wife in an outbreak, and he just has his daughter who's infected. In a world filled with zombies, and there's this drug called Zombrex, and that's used to sort of keep the disease at bay. Zombrex is incredibly expensive, so there he is, competing in this, controversial game show called Terror's Reality. That's where he can, get enough cash to pay for some Zombrex and keep his daughter alive.
Katie, it's me, it's Daddy.
He wins a little bit of money, and then he goes off to buy his daughter Zombrex, and then there's a zombie outbreak in the arena. He escapes with his daughter to the safe house, which is this government shelter. The shelter gets locked down for 3 days until the military comes to rescue them. Well, Chuck has to get out because he's got a daughter who needs this drug. Like, if she doesn't get it in a certain amount of time, she's gonna be turning into a zombie. So he has to go out into the world and try and find some Zombrex. And when he gets back, they see a newscast that says that it wasn't an accident, the zombie outbreak, and he's the one who started it.
Look, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but I'm being set up.
最初に基本ストーリーを、
Basically, I started with creating the story on my end. And once I had a basic framework of what it should be, I passed it over to Blue Castle. They rewrote some of it, and they passed it back. And then we rewrote some of it and passed it back. It's a very reiterative process. But playing this catch ball, so to speak, going back and forth, ultimately led to the highest quality version of the story.
The story and the context are usually in contrast. The story is incredibly serious. It's really important for us that the character and the motivations are very serious, because that contrast is needed for a lot of things the players can bring into them and a lot of things they get from the world. So you can imagine this really serious context, and then they're in this world, it's ridiculous. It's like Vegas on steroids. And then the player can they can mess with those cinematics too. They can come in there and they can wear whatever goofy outfits they want. And that adds that one of the key pillars of Dead Rising is that dark humor.
You're Chuck Green.
Dead Rising is a game about America. It was made in Japan, developed in Japan, but it's about America. It's about American culture. You can see the kind of like love and satire and parody and strange respect for American culture. We're just upping that. It's a zombie game, but it's also this kind of like deep embedded satire of American culture.
What makes it fun is playing it. We get a lot of folks playing our game a lot in the office. We don't spend a lot of time talking about how cool it's going to be. We're going to make it cool, and we're just going to hold ourselves to it. Having the whole team come together and collaborate, that's just incredible. Everyone's focused on one thing together, and they go off and do it, and they come back, and they're just like super energized, and it's a lot of fun.
God bless America. Let's go hunting, boys. Let the lady go.
の魅力っていうのはやっぱゲームストーリーの中にも
A large part of how attractive a character is comes from what he does in the story and the situation he's been thrust in.
Inafune-san, the VP, is very, very character driven. Frank West is an amazing character. We all loved him. Ugly bruiser that he is, he did represent character, and you can't speak of Capcom without acknowledging what they've brought to characters in video games. They are very, very character driven. They wanted us to bring something a little bit more all-American to the franchise, but we didn't want to go with someone absolutely cheesy. We wanted to go with someone iconic, someone that you can recognize from a single screenshot.
Chuck Green slowly evolved over time. Like with any character, there's a lot of, both with his visual looks and also his personality, there's a lot of trial and error. And there's about the casting and the animation, and all those things work together to create this character. But he's basically an everyday guy caught in an insane situation that he doesn't know how to control. And he has to find out how to get out of it and how to control it.
We have concept work we could package in a 100-page book for Chuck. What he started off as and how he's finally ended up. But we're very pleased with how iconic Chuck is.
被らない。フランクとはあまり被らない。
Chuck sort of fit the story and the personality of the game that we were going for. If Chuck was too similar to Frank West in his personality, then people would say, well, you should have just used Frank West in the first place. So we also needed to make sure that he had a personality that stood on his own and felt very unique in its own right.
Fortune City was always intended to be a secondary character to all of our main characters in our plot line. We wanted something that you as a player could easily digest, but we also wanted something that as you explored the game and discovered more of the plot and the characters in there, you also discovered more about the different levels, flavors, and areas of the city.
We did reuse a fair number of the assets from DR1, particularly with the zombies, so they move and feel very much like they did in the first one, which lends itself to, hey, this feels like Dead Rising. We've got a ton more zombies on the screen, so we had to have more variety just for the sake of not seeing repetitiveness. So it doesn't feel like one single zombie constantly doing the same thing.
Oh no.
When we went to Vegas and Reno, we weren't just capturing for the environment. We did take the opportunity to photograph the consumers of Vegas. And then we created basically a mugs list, a wall, like a crime scene. And we did notice a lot of similarities in the kind of guys and girls that go to Vegas. So it's very easy to extract the visual language out of your typical Vegas consumer. They're not just human beings who have been turned into zombies. These are guys who are shopping, gambling, eating, going to shows and clubs when this thing happened.
The zombies are always there, they're always in the way, but typically they're in the way while you're trying to progress to deal with human beings. And one of the staples of zombie movies has always been that the real enemy is other people.
And you are?
Oh, you know me. I'm Slappy.
We did a lot of concept on our psychopaths, and I think those are the characters that had most of the team gathering around the monitors, you know, laughing or pointing out issues with it. That's where we really had to express, this guy's gone absolutely crazy. They're not going to be your typical human beings. They're going to be recognizable for the characteristics that they portray are portrayed on their exterior as well. They're incarnate of gluttony or sexual appetite, or just sheer frustration is represented in their concept. And the character team did an amazing job of translating those into 3D.
I'm Antoine! I am the king of cuisine!
Combo weapons definitely was the #1 hook. I can't even remember where the initial idea came from. Very, very early on when combo weapons were identified as that's the game, that's the hook. That's the thing that's going to take it over the top from Dead Rising 1.
We tried to take some weapons that are like, okay, this is an iconic weapon, you know, like the sickle. Let's add something to it. And it just kept blossoming. And you know, Capcom was giving us great feedback saying, we love this stuff, keep going, and we did. We just kept trying to do as many as we could.
The paddle saw, which has emerged into sort of the iconic weapon for Chuck Green, that was one of the very first ones we did.
We had a paddle in the game, and we had chainsaws in the game. We're like, okay, paddle, chainsaw, and you're rowing up the river, right? You're taking out the zombies.
As soon as it came together and the audio guys threw some audio on it and the zombies were getting sliced, that's when we knew that, okay, we've nailed it. We know exactly what's going to excite people about the game.
We started going to hardware stores, we started going on the internet, we were going everywhere to try and find out, like, if we do this and this, would that, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to work, but would it look like it would work visually? And that's where it went to.
And with Chuck, his uniqueness is his ability to, you know, be a handyman. He's the guy who can sort of make things work. You know, it doesn't necessarily look like the most elegant, you know, invention. You know, it's got a lot of duct tape, you know, solving the problems.
It's kind of cool to find an object in the world and start to think about what you could combine it with, and you take it to the bench, and when you come out of that combo room and see some zombies, you're ready to cause some damage.
Chuck can actually create more devastating weapons out of lesser, you know, household items. And don't try it at home.
A lot of video games might only have 15 or 20 weapons in them. If you look at some of the first-person shooters, they have, you know, a few rifles and a few handguns and a few shotguns, and they're awesome and they're great for the game. But 15 weapons versus 300 weapons is an entirely different problem. And in the Dead Rising 2, we have 50 of the combo weapons. So these are weapons that you take two other parts, put them together, and the technology of having weapons that burn zombies and slice zombies and freeze zombies and electrocute zombies. Yeah, it's been awesome.
There's several times in development of this game where I hear someone like going, I can't believe this, come check this out, and everyone starts running over. And you're saying, wow, we didn't actually anticipate that weapon being used in that way. Just the emergent sort of, you know, experiences, those creative expression the players can get out of the game has been totally awesome.
So one of the fun weapons that we have in the game, one of the unique weapons that we have is the moose head. It's a classic Americana. It's a moose on the wall, and Chuck's able to use this thing as a weapon. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing the animations for it and the ideas for it. It's great as a clear-out weapon. You can charge straight ahead and just part them like the Red Sea, or you can flick zombies just like they're squirrels on the road.
You can drop into any part of the environment, find an appropriate weapon within 15 seconds and go to town with it. It really encourages a lot of diversity. from the get-go.
Vehicles was one aspect of Dead Rising 1 that was good, but we realized that we could do better. And not only do better on things like the cars and make them feel a little bit more North American. In making a game about a character who was an ex-motocross rider, obviously the expectation is he's going to kick ass on a motorbike once you get into the game. So putting all that detail in of the suspension and the way that Chuck actually animates when he's on the bike, doing wheelies and endos, and how he reacts when he's doing donuts, getting his foot down and really looking like a pro on the bike. And one of the mantras always was that when Chuck is on the bike, the player needs to feel like a rock star.
Dead Rising 2 has been quite an exciting product to work on and quite challenging from a global standpoint because we've got development centered at Capcom Japan in Osaka, and they're working directly with Blue Castle Games, who's up in Vancouver. And at the same time, the marketing for Europe is being driven out of our London office. And then here in San Francisco, we're basically responsible for all the North American marketing.
Well, it was quite easy for everything to come together because within Dead Rising there are a certain amount of pillars, we call them, that just obviously stand out as well. From a marketing point of view, this is the type of thing that we're going to build the campaign around.
We've got a website called tapeitordie.com where we've got 4 fictitious characters who are supposedly in the game world blogging about events as they happen. And when we presented the idea to the R&D team, they were actually so excited about it that they modeled these characters in the game and hid them in a location so you as the player can actually go in and find them.
With a game like Dead Rising 2, it really takes a lot of people from around the world. This is a real global game from every side. There's constant email, phone conversation, video conferences, every week in order to ensure a successful campaign.
We'll come in and we're catching the guys in the UK at the end of their day. And we'll kind of, work on some things with them, and then all of a sudden as we're winding down, the emails start coming in from Japan because it's the start of their day. So it's almost like the development of Dead Rising 2 and all the elements associated with the campaign are on a 24-hour clock.
Working with all the different studios, this sort of worldwide global effort, it's kind of funny because it actually doesn't feel like anything culturally clashing. And I mean, everyone loves zombies, so everyone kind of comes forward like, what would be really cool is we do this. I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. That's rad, that's zombies.
The old way of designing games, where everything was basically designed in Japan, created in Japan, and then sold in the West, creates a gigantic gap of oceans between where the actual content is produced and where it is sold. And that makes for a very unnatural relationship and for sharing information.
Working with Capcom for us has just been like a huge honor to have that opportunity to sort of work on something that's important as Dead Rising.
They're working with us for the first time. We're working with them for the first time. They've had experience already working with Western development, so they've been through the ringer on things like translation and culture differences and so on. We had to learn that from scratch at the beginning. But very quickly what we found was that game design is sort of a universal language.
Even despite the language barrier, the communication that we have with Capcom is more than we've had with any other Western publisher.
Before long we found that translation wouldn't be required at times. You sit there and you sort of pitch an idea to the Japanese producers and you find that you're halfway through explaining it, or the translator is halfway through trying to translate what you've said, and they just stop you because they understand. And when you see the smiles and you see the thumbs up, you know that you've kind of hit the nail on the head with them.
With Capcom Japan and Blue Castle working together, we learn things every day, give back feedback, back and forth. It's been great.
The result of building that trust relationship first and really building on personal relationships as well has really resulted in probably the best publisher relationship we've ever had.
The reason why we decided to go with Blue Castle was when we first met them, they just felt like they, first of all, understood the brand and basically what Capcom's thinking was, and they brought a large amount of respect to that brand and franchise as well. So we just knew right off the bat that they were the right fit for the job.
Challenge was like wanting to sort of fulfill a vision where players can play the game in a competitive nature and players can obviously play the game in a cooperative nature. How do we make that work without it degrading into like some sort of like first person, third person, shooting sequence? So this idea that brought to us actually was the brainchild of Capcom, and Inafune-san was this idea of this game show, Terror's Reality.
Inafune-san was the creator of Dead Rising 1, and he's got an incredible lineage in the industry all the way back to Mega Man. And Terror's Reality was his sort of attempt to take something like American Gladiators and Takeshi's Castle, which we know as MXC in North America, and take those and sort of meld them together and have this crazy, wacky game show with zombies in the middle of all of it.
It's really overly advertised and overly announced and really cheesy, in fact. And it's actually quite funny, right? And that's an excellent contrast to those zombies that are spilling blood on this brightly pink, and yellow floor.
Terror's Reality was always designed to be multiplayer from the beginning. We knew that we wanted to have the 4-player sort of adversarial co-op games where you would jump in and have this very short, intense experience. But it was maybe halfway through the project where we couldn't ignore the fans anymore, and you heard on the forums or read on the forums, it's like, yeah, Terror's Reality looks like it's going to be really cool, but what we really want is co-op. We want to be running around with our buddy killing zombies and exploring this incredible world.
We're working through trying to make sure that it's going to be really fun with multiple people in the environment doing whatever they want to do, right? If they want to use the wheelchair and then another guy lines them up with the baseball bat, we got to cover all of these different issues that weren't really thought about, but we're doing and having fun doing it.
What happens to the game world now that you have two running in the game? Obviously every cooperative game faces that, but with something like Dead Rising and the amount of characters we have to deal with, it's been a huge challenge.
So this kind of encapsulates what we wanted Fortune City to feel like. You come to Fortune City with your friends, and here's a good place to blow off a little steam after a long day of gambling. You can come in here, get served by beautiful women, maybe get a private dance or two. There's a whole lot of alcohol to drink in here. You've got zombie strippers wandering around. Audio helped out a ton in this case. We've got pounding music and a strobe light going on in here. We wanted something that would feel lively and exciting.
Everything was created with a single player mind frame, but you may like certain combos and I may like certain combos, and then when you use them in conjunction, you'll be surprised with the various results that you can get. And I mean, it's possible to do it by yourself, but it's really funny and awesome when you see it 2 players. Watching your buddy just running down the street with a moose head and zombies are flying all over the place, like, that's funny stuff. It just doesn't get much better than that, just watching your buddy like, whoa, and then you get hit by a zombie that's right behind you because you weren't paying attention.
Even if you played the first one and enjoyed it a lot, the sort of experience you're going to have and the way that you're going to play the game is going to totally change in multiplayer. And so you're basically getting 2 really great experiences for the price of one.